And so there is no better way to just gain an awareness of body parts than standing up and how we hold ourselves. So with the hips, sacrum, pelvis being at the forefront of the pondering tonight, I invite you to walk around a little bit and do like I have. Take your hands on your pelvis as you walk around and just notice what is the movement, because walking, it sounds so simple, actually requires a lot of hip mobility. Your hips has to go into anterior posterior, but not at the same time. There's also your internal obliques has to help out getting the hip lifted up. So just notice, I mean, we know the element of the hips is water. We have to have fluidity, because otherwise, if we get stuck here, knees and low back becomes the areas of signaling for us. So come into your stance and just stand in a comfortable position. And as always, just notice again, are you sort of listing into one side, and that can be habit. It can be because it's a bumpy on one side and we want to get away from that. And these are the patterns that really can begin to layer in long term. Also notice the knees. Do they tend to just lock out? Is one locked out? And as you look down at the pelvis, does it look like one side maybe further forward than the other? So that nothing is really symmetrical in our body. So these twists and turns, they can layer in deeper. And with somatics, we can also learn what are the habits that we can undo before they become problems. Lift the heels one at a time, just the heels, but keep the knees straight. So the knees are not bending. And so this mobility is all about what are the weights, the internal obliques capable of, and also the troublemakers, quadratus lumborum in the back. And I get a lot of people say, I hurt right there. And so we know there's an imbalance with the QLs, with the lumbar sacral joint. And of course, that's what we look to address. As you stand, and I ask you this pretty much every week, is the weight more forward on the feet? Is there more contraction on the front? So if there is neck and shoulder tension, it is often because the tree is just about to topple over. So bringing more weight into the heels can begin to let the entire structure just lift up and out of the pelvis instead of collapsing into it. So with that said, let's come onto our back and cover your mat again with the blanket. It just makes it a little easier to slide. But be on a nice, soft, plush carpet. I would not recommend the hardwood floor or tile floor. That's going to be very, very hard. And as you come to rest on your back body, take a moment and let the quills sort of soften. Let your bones drop. And notice as you toggle your awareness, right side, left, left, right. How is your sacrum bones, your iliac sacral joint? Or are you feeling even bony pressure under both sides? Are you listening to one side? Are you listening to one side? You really can't feel the tailbone right here. So we're going to ponder that in just a little bit more depth in a little bit, and how that relates to healthy tensegrity is a word that one of my teachers uses. There is both tension and flexibility around the joint. So we have mobility, full mobility. So from here, let's go ahead and just take the arms out to cactus arms, or as always, of course, whatever is comfortable for you. So that may be straightening the elbows out and not have the elbows bent. You don't want to be in a position of discomfort or pain. And then press out gently out through the right heel, and then let that go. So we're working with the dorsal shape, the back seam, press out through the left. And then begin to invite the pelvis to travel down with the hip. Let the pelvis travel down as you press up through the heel. What is available? So don't push hard. And we have teeny little muscles that connect from L5 to the ilium to the pelvis. And it's very, very common, especially for women, because we have the experience of childbirth, that things become uneven across the lumbar spine, sacrum, and the tailbone. Not to mention what may happen to the pelvic floor at a natural birth. So we have all of these opportunities for events, we'll call it events, that can change how our body reorients itself and comes into balance. So always remind yourself a little goes a long way. And if the straight leg, heel up, slip and down causes lumbar thingies, we know the psoas may be involved. So let's go ahead and bend up the knees. Bending up the knees. Placing the feet a comfortable distance apart. And just notice with the knees bent up, is there more ease in the low back? Again, the arms just rest out to the sides. However, it is comfortable, cactus or straight out. And then from here, let's begin to arch. Contract the low back. And then exhale, let's float back to neutral. Let's take a buffer breath in. So the arch and flatten is the foundational movement. As we go right to the hub of the wheel, the middle of our body. Let's do it again on your next in-breath. Contract the back muscle, causing the pelvis to tilt forward. And then slowly draw back, float back to neutral. Do that one more time. Contract. Notice, are you traveling straight down the sacrum, or are you veering off a little bit to one side, which is very, very common? We'll address that momentarily. Now let's attend to the other half of the coin. Take a breath in for nothing, and as you exhale, draw the pubic bone towards the belly button, so flattening, sense of hollowing out the lower abdomen. And then slowly release this contraction. Abdominis rectus, the six-pack, attaches to the pubic bone, but this lower area can get a little bit lazy. Of course, this is Uddiyana Bandha from yoga. Let's do it again. Breath in for nothing. And then exhale, contract from the pubic bone, drawing it up towards the belly button. Feel how you can drive the tailbone upward and facilitating length in the low back. Buffer breath again. And we'll do it one more time. Breath in for nothing. And exhale. Draw the pubic bone up, simultaneously draw the tailbone towards the sky. So these two body parts, tailbone and pubic bone, they travel in the same direction. At least ideally. If they don't, we got issues. Now let's put these two together. On your next in-breath, you'll arch the low back. And exhale, floating back to neutral. Take a breath in for nothing. And then exhale, flattening by driving the tailbone up, pubic bone up towards the belly button like a big wheel. And then slowly release. Let's take a buffer breath. We'll do that again. Inhale, arch. And exhale, release, floating back to neutral. Buffer breath in. And exhale. Contract. Feel how the pelvic floor contracts as you draw the tailbone towards the sky, pubic bone up. So this helps bring stability and healthy mobility across the pelvis. Now take your right hand and just bend the elbow in and touch your right shoulder. Take your left hand to your left front hip or pelvis. So I'm right on the bony front groin. So I want to create a sense of this diagonal from shoulder to hip, because this is one of our fascial lines from shoulder to opposite hip, shoulder to opposite hip. And then we're going to do arch and flattening on the diagonal. So as you inhale, with the left hand on the left hip, right hand on the right shoulder, elongate across this diagonal. And then as you exhale, contract across this diagonal. Let's do that again. Inhale, elongate, lengthen, distance between left hip and right shoulder, and exhale, contract between these two. So it's a bit of an awkward movement, but it can help reestablish the balance between hip and shoulders, often cause of shoulder and neck thingies. Let's return it one more time, working on the diagonal, and we'll release back to neutral. And let's switch to the other diagonal. And so with the hand on the hip, one hand on the shoulder, we get a little bit of feedback. So as you inhale, elongate, lengthen this diagonal, and then exhale, shortening this diagonal. I know it's a little bit awkward, at least it is for me. And then just move back and forth a couple more times. Inhale, diagonal arch. And you may notice this is an easy side, or maybe there's no difference. And we're back at neutral. We're going to bookend this with a regular arch and flatten. So one more time, arch. And exhale, let's move right into the flattening. Let's do it one more time. Inhale, arching. And exhale, flattening. And then from the flattening, go ahead and just slide the legs out. Pause. Slide the legs out and pause. Breathing in and out. And notice how you feel. What may have changed. And then from here, go ahead and bend up the knees again. And this time we'll interlace the hands behind the head. And then inhale, arch the low back. Exhale, flattening, draw the elbows in. Now pull the pubic bone towards the sternum, sternum towards the pubic bone. This is what allows us to lift the head without straining the neck. Lengthening back out. Let's arch one more time. Arching. And exhale, flattening, elbows comes up. Pubic bone to sternum, sternum to pubic bone. So the weight of the head And is very, very limited. We're just supporting it in the hands, but we are not straining. We're going to come back to this, but we're going to do the diagonal. Working on that again. This time, draw your left knee in. So hold the left knee in, your left hand, right hand behind the head. Inhale, arch. We're working on that diagonal again, but we take a little bit deeper. And then exhale, draw elbow towards knee. And now we're really asking the obliques to come back into play. Inhale, releasing out long. On the in-breath, arch. And exhale. So we're still shortening that diagonal between opposite hip and shoulder, but we're adding a little bit more limb power here. One more time, inhale, arch. And exhale, diagonal, curling up. Releasing down. Release the arms and just let everything lengthen out and just pause and notice what happens with this one here. These are always so interesting for me, and I love it when my teachers give me an opportunity to pause and sense, let my motor cortex catch up. And then let's go ahead and bend up the knees. Take your right knee into your right hand. And we are ready to rock and roll. Inhale, diagonal arch. And exhale, move hip and shoulder towards each other. And elbow towards knee. Inhale, arch. So all movements ideally originate from the lower abdomen, right above the pubic bone, below the belly button, the dantian, your seat of power, according to a lot of Eastern martial arts philosophies. And one more time. So a total of 3 repetitions. So feel a strong contraction in your lower abdomen, the vehicle for the movement, so you're not straining neck. Or, what am I trying to say? Shoulders. And then as you come down, interlace the hands behind the head again. We're going to do a couple of arch and curls to bookend it. After one-sided, we want to bring it back to midline. So inhale, arch, elbows press down. Exhale again, contraction towards midline. Draw the tailbone up, 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 up. And then inhale, elbows comes down. Elongate the whole front seam. And exhale, coming up. And inhaling down. And again, go ahead, lengthen the legs out and pause. Pausing. Notice the breath in the lower abdomen. We carry often a lot of tension in the lower abdomen, either due to postural habits or because we may be anxious or because our clothing is just too tight and we can't breathe with the diaphragm. So there are many reasons. And again, we just become familiar with the architecture of our body. All right, let's bend the knees up again. Out flare. Take your hands to your lower hips. That's not hips, to your pelvis again. And that's what, just to feel how it moves with your thighs. And we're going to start with the right leg, releasing the right knee out to the side, releasing it down. We keep the pelvis relatively neutral. We're going to lift it up a wee bit. Feel the inner groins contracting. And then slowly releasing it down. And lifting up. So it's like a gentle brushing up and down. Lowering the knee, there's a sense of release. And as you exhale and contract, inner groins, the knee draws back up. Experiment with how high you lift up. You want to stay away from the stretch sensation. So staying in a sense of release. So we're moving the resting tone down. So simply just lowering the knee up to one side, pure hip movement, pure hip movement. It's easy. Make it as easy as you can, not straining. So how low you go, that is how low you go. This is never a more is better philosophy. And then next time you lower down, go ahead and slide the leg out long, sliding it out long. Slide the left leg out, and again, just pause. Breathing in and out. So this week in yoga, we talked about the marma point on the inner groin. So you may, or you may not, you may feel there's a little bit of opening or space in the front groins. We got a lot of stuff going on here, femoral arteries, veins, the psoas is crossing through. So congestion here will impair the entire hip mobility. So we'll bend the knees up again and let's say hello to the other side. You can place your hands on the front of your pelvis and just notice as you slowly release the left knee down and then lifting it up. What does this feel like? Knee lowers down. Notice as the knee releases down how the pelvic floor has to make an accommodation. Releasing down and lifting up. These very slow and gentle paint brushes. Lowering and lifting. This is, interestingly enough, a movement I see lost in a lot of my very elderly students. Hip rotation. And that begins to really wear down the hip joint. It really wears down the back. It really wears down the knees. Because we are taking those movements into other joints that are not designed to do them. And therein begins the pain cycle. Notice a sense of opening, releasing, lengthening, and then a slow and easy contraction. We lengthen back out, slow and deliberate. So this is not a matter of quantity. It is the quality, the attention that we bring to the release and that gentle contraction. Getting a lot of information to the motor cortex so it can find our body. All right, let's go ahead. Next time the knee is down, slide the foot out. And we'll go ahead and take a recheck. Take a recheck. Notice how your pelvis is resting now on the mat. So from external rotation, let's go to internal rotation. So we'll bend the knees up again. Walk the feet about as wide as the mat. We need to have room for the inswing. Again, you can take the hands to the hips because then you really have an inside view of what's going on. You're going to pivot on the foot as you take your right knee towards the midline. Let it move down towards the left knee. and then lifting back up again. And play with the position. You may like to take your foot off the mat. Pivot in, swing the knee. Notice this mobility. Lift the knee back up. In, swing knee. And lifting back up again. So here we are talking that outer hip complex that is often a trouble area for women because of the way our hips are. This time we get tight.
And
Yes,
do
Sally.
you want your feet wide enough so that when your knee comes down, your thigh is pointing straight down?
I'm not so concerned about that. I'm just gonna have wide enough where I have range of movement to swing the leg up and down. So here, the knee will cross over the midline.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
which I know is like a no-no in yoga, but it's okay. Somatics.
Okay.
So thank you for asking. I know. We're not staying, we're not forcing, we're not pushing. So here you're just making these very easy internal rotations. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. So knee is not changing, ankle is not changing, sacrum is not changing. So pay attention to, are you calling in some of the neighbors to do this movement? Can you maintain it solely in the hip joint? Solely in the hip. And then after the next one, you lift up. Let's walk the feet in and just go ahead. I know I'm curious too. What did that do for hip mobility? Notice, toggle your mind one side to the next. So you are really taking a look under the hood here. The house across the street from ours just sold, so now they did that big inspection. We saw the car out there today. Kind of what you're doing right now. You're doing the inspection and you're fixing as you go along. So let's go ahead and do the other side. Hopefully the inspector didn't find anything really scary. Neither you nor the one across the street. So start slow and easy. Knee dips down towards the opposite foot. And then it comes back up again. These very small, slow movements, so beneficial for not only the nervous system, but right now you are lubricating the connective tissue around the hip joint. The duct tape, and it gets all dry if it doesn't get synovial fluid, the WD-40, for healthy joint mobility. And so again, often we don't really move in ways, unless we do somatics or yoga, that takes our joints into the full range of movement. So it doesn't have to be hard, but it does have to get done. Back and forth, back and forth, pivoting on the foot. So not torquing ankle or knee. Maintain that stability, neutrality across the other joints, the adjacent joints. It's like I said, the reason our low back and knees often get in trouble is because of lacking hip mobility. I'm not saying it's always the case, only often. All right. Let's go ahead and slide the legs back out. We'll do another little checker inner. Pause. Breathing in and out. Observing what is present without identifying with it. Then we're gonna go ahead and bend up the knees again. And this movement we haven't done in a long time. There are so many movements, but tonight's the night. Imagine you have a little button in front of your knees and then press one knee towards the button. So that hip will lift up a little bit and then take that back. We're going to stand the same side. Press that knee towards the button. Notice as that hip lift up a little bit, the other hip presses, the other pelvis, I should say ilium, presses into the floor. So this is the act of walking. So one side of your pelvis comes into an anterior, the other side is posterior. But if we are locked in the sacral joint and the pubic symphysium joint, we have lost this. And again, if you were to guess what neighbors has to sort this out, yeah, low back and knees. So this gentle rocking back and forth. So one hip, one pelvis, side of the pelvis lifts up, the other one presses down. These are very, very small muscles deep in the pelvis. This is the only job they have. Now let's go to the other side. So now your left knee is going to press that button just a wee bit in front of it. So feel how that side of your back pelvis, your ilium, lifts up while the right side presses down. So you are rocking across the pelvis. And just notice, does this side feel like the other one did? Gentle rocking motions. Very, very soothing for the nervous system. And if the nervous system is happy, well, a whole lot of systems are happy in the body. There won't be a test, what's called the HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and your adrenal glands. Start the squirting and everything starts squirting, and suddenly you got a little bit of a emergency on your hands. So here we're just soothing everything. All right, we're gonna let go of that. So that was the verticality of the pelvis. Now we're gonna move into the horizontal. So with the pelvis in a neutral position, so you may be sort of midway on your sacrum. So you're not arched, so you are towards the tailbone, and you're not flat, so you're all the way at the top points, but sort of somewhere in the middle. And then hike the right hip towards the right shoulder. And then slowly let that go. Let's do that again. Stay on the right side. Hike the right hip up. So last week we did the side curl. It's very similar, except it isn't. Using the same muscles, but gravity is different. Hiking the hip towards the armpit, letting it go. If you take your hands onto your pelvis again, notice as you hike the right side up, the left travels down. And letting it go. So these are the QLs, quadratus lumborums, and also the inner obliques. We played with them a little bit when we stood up, when we did the heel raises. Hip hikes up, slides down. Remember the element, according to the chakra philosophy of the pelvis, is water. Fluid, gracefully. This is where when we get stuck, we lose the grace in our movement. We sort of get a little clunky in walking and our other movements. All right, let's do the other side. Left hip hikes up. slides down. I mentioned in the beginning that I have the lumbar scoliosis, and mine is the left lumbar, which is a very common for women again. And that I can tell my left side is not as eager at hiking up as my right is. So this is just something that needs to be tended to very frequently to help maintain ease across hiking up, letting go, hiking up. So we started with the down slip. Now we're going to do an up slip, same movement, but different orientation. So we keep moving around this muscle, that muscle, until we have sort of tilled all the psoas. All right, we're going to let that go. Now we're going to put these two together. Are you ready? Whew. I think of my hips now as the pedals on a bike. I'm going to start by hiking the right hip up. And then I'm going to lift it up and move it forward. It'll come down. And so I'm taking both of these movements of the lifting, the vertical, and then the horizontal, and I'm putting them into one movement. We're rocking my pelvis, like think of pedals on a bike as one goes up, the other comes down, and you're moving around in circles. How big you're making these circles? That is how big you're making these circles. So your mind may be focusing on one side. I'm asking you to take the focus to the other side. Make that the instigator. And notice if that changed how you execute the movement. Did you have more access to the other side? What happens if you go backwards? How does that feel? So now I'm pedaling backwards on my bike. Note to self, okay, that one may have been sitting on the shelf for too long. It's gonna have to come back into rotation. Don't know how you feel. All right, let's go ahead and slide the legs out. Pause here, pause in here. Breathing in and out. Notice the breath in your lower abdomen. Notice your flatness, for lack of a better word, from one side to the other across your pelvis. And just notice any sensations. Let's bring a little bit of length to the psoas muscles. We'll go ahead and bend up the left knee. Bend up the left knee. Keep the right straight. Let your arms just rest out to the side in a comfortable place. And we'll slide the right heel up. Slide the heel up. Then draw the knee towards the chest. You feel the hip flexors are engaging, and we're going to release the leg down. And then slide it out long. Sliding it out long. Press out through the heel. And then let go completely. Letting go. And we're going to repeat that. Slide the heel up. Hip flexors, so psoas and quadricep in particular, engaged. We release down. And then we take it out long, 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 long. Press out through the heel. And let go. So we again in that front groin area. Let's do it again. Slide the heel up. Contract the front groin. Release the heel down. Keep a little bit of a flattening in your low back. As you slide the leg out, press out through the heel, and then let go. Let go of all effort. We'll do it one more time. Sliding the heel up. Draw the knee in. Slide the leg all the way up. A little bit of a flattening in the low back. And then letting go. Okay, we'll do that one more time. So notice as you slide up and draw the knee in, we put a little bit of a flattening of the back. As you release the heel down, keep that gentle flattening as you slide the leg out. Helps us isolate the psoas, which often pulls the low back in to a bigger lordosis, stronger lumbar curve than may feel good. All right, go ahead and slide the left leg out now. And just pause and feel. Breathing into the abdomen. Toggle your awareness right side, left side. Well, I think it's worth repeating on the other side. I hope you agree. Let's go ahead and bend up the right knee. Knee towards the sky. And then slide the left heel up. Contract, cross the front groin, and then slowly release. Hold on to that anterior tilt. It's gentle flattening of the low back as you extend out through the heel, and then let go. And we repeat. Sliding up. Knee draws in. Just a slow dance of movement. Helping the psoas release. Letting go. Sliding in. Releasing, holding on to that gentle flattening of the low back. Lengthening out through the heel. Letting go completely at the end. Before you compete, how slow and lazy can you make this movement? Easy peasy. I think we did about 6 on the other side, so one more. And then I think we are all, maybe we're at 7. I feel we are all evened out. So this is really one of the, that 2 that addresses the psoas, but this one doesn't add any neck or shoulder thingies. I feel therefore that makes it a little bit more bang for the buck without the risk of adding other things. So go ahead and take the legs out long. And we are coming on to one of my favorite movements. And what I call the fallen tree movement. We'll bend up the left leg again. So bring your mind into your right hip, the right hip joint. Roll the right thigh in and then roll it out. Thigh rolls in and out. Often we can roll the lower leg, the foot, further than the thigh. So again, take the movement into the thigh. Next time you roll out, let's slide the knee up. Slide it back out again. Roll the leg in. Roll it out, sliding it up. rolling it in. So it's a whole thigh event. Thigh bone rolling in, rolling out, and then we come up to this tree event. And now we got to add a little something here to allow for that last bit of the movement. Go ahead and straighten your left leg out. We started with it bend up because it can be a lot on the sacrum, but now we're going to add the dipping over. So the whole movement, roll the leg in, roll the leg out, sliding it up. So the arms are out to T position. And then I'm going to take the knee all the way across for rotation. I'll take the knee back out to the side. And if this is an irritating movement, remember, you can always modify, change what works for you. Roll the thigh in, roll it out, slide it up, dipping across, allowing the whole hip to roll, knee out, sliding along, rolling in, rolling out. Feel that tree pose, dipping across, back out. So we are working all these energetic points off the leg, the ankle, the knee, the outer hip, the inner groins for vitality, healing, allowing or granting us better mobility and agility. Let's do it one more time. Smooth and easy. And then once you straighten out, pausing and feeling. Right side, left side. And we'll go ahead and again bend up the right leg as we start. Again, helping us maintain a little bit more stability initially across the sacrum. Because if we do have some sacral instabilities, we want to not spend a whole lot of time in that. So it's always modified. We began to just roll the thigh bone in and out. So don't think of it as rolling the foot, but roll the thigh bone. Internal rotation, external rotation. Internal and external. You can almost take a hand right on your hip joint. Feel the thigh bone moving in the socket. And then begin to slide the foot up. You don't have to travel all the way up on the first go. We slowly build it. Back out, rolling in, rolling out, sliding up. In and out. How is this side compared to the other side? So one side tends to be the tutor, and the other side the student. So know which side. If you find there's a big difference from one side to the other in your body, then I highly recommend that you spend some time over the next days and weeks continuing these practices, and start on the side that's easy. And let that support the side that needs to be rehabilitated. All right, next time you slide out, let's take the right leg long, if that is right for your body tonight. And then with the arms out to the side, we can add that internal rotation with the whole hip lift, releasing back, leg out to the side. Sliding the leg out, rolling in, rolling out, sliding up. Make it enjoyable. Moving in a way that your body knows you're attending to it. Soothing, calming, supporting your nervous system. Next time you slide out, keeping it out and pause. Pause and sensing the sensations. You don't have to name them. So there's no right or wrong, good or bad, they just are. And then we'll come on to our abdomen. So take a roll them out. And just support your head in your hands. So the forehead rests on the back of the hands. You can also turn the head to one side if that feels better. It's whatever works for your neck. And rock your hips a little bit from side to side. And feel the pubic bone making contact with the earth. So again, we have a joint across here, and this joint, like any other joint in the body, can get arthritis and become really painful, and that will affect the whole pelvic mobility. Very similar to what we just did. You're going to roll the right leg out, roll the right thigh out, and then slide it up. So you might just scoot a little bit to the side of the mat, because I landed right into the sticky, and then slide it back up again. Slide the knee up and slide it back out. Back and same movement, different orientation. Now, next time you slide the leg up, let's hold it up in this Baddha Konasana version. And then here, draw the knee towards the hip. You're coming into a little bit of a twist of the low back, and then slide the knee out, away from your body. Slide the hip in, so the knee is moving the hip over the other hip, and then I take it back out. So I have it up in this bound angle pose look-ish. So the knee is out to the side and up. Pull the hip over the other hip, and then lengthening it back out again. So you're a little twisty across the lower abdomen. And the next time you come out, let's slide the right leg out long and pause. Pausing and breathing into the lower abdomen. And then scoot, 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 scoot to the other side of the mat. And then we do the exact same thing. Left knee slides up. And again, I ended up on my sticky. There's no sliding there. So we want that slidability. It's so important. Knee slides up, slides back out. Up and up. Up and up. And let's take it up and keep it up. Now keep it up. And then slide the knee towards your body so the hips pivots. And then slide it back out. Slide the knee towards your body. Hips are pivoting up. And then back out. Pelvis flattens towards the floor. Back and forth. Slide the hip over or pivoting it upward And then take the knee out. So this front groin point is where we are really focusing again. So the knee is up in our Baddha Konasana. Not an easy movement. So be playful in the execution, where the knee is up and out to the side. So pulling the hip back, pulling back out again. So integrating the hip across the low back and inner groins. And then from here, let's take the legs long, center on the mat. We're going to tuck the toes under, creep the toes to the nose, and then gently press the pubic bone down as you lift heart and head, lengthen the front seam. Creep the elbows in. So let's hug the elbows. So slide the arms in so you can take one hand around the elbows. So you are sort of in a sphinx pose. So elbows maybe even slightly forward up the shoulders, helping us come into a back bend. The further forward up the shoulders the elbows are, the gentler the back bend will be. Now pressing the heels back so we're taking a little bit more weight on the pubic bone. And then draw the belly button up towards the sternum. Belly button towards the sternum. And then slowly release down. Pause, 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 pause. We'll repeat this one more time. Tuck the toes under. Slide the elbows in. Clasp the elbows. And then inhale, lift the heart, press the heels back, press the heels back. So the legs firm. So good for the knee joint, this movement. Draw the belly button up, 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 up. Shoulder blades down. And release, feet long. Let's take the hands under the shoulders. And we'll push back to puppy pose or wide knee child's pose. If this is a morning practice, you may even like to do a downward facing dog here. But for an evening practice, keeping it low to the ground would generally be recommended. And then from here, let's meet up in a seated posture. And so we will close, and then I'll invite you to unmute and walk around. But we'll bring our palms together. Anjali Mudra. Anjali means heart. So this is the heart gesture. Sharing wellness, ease, and peace with our chant, Om Shanti, 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 Om. You may direct the energy of this powerful chant both inward and out. You may also just let it be like soft rain of healing over everybody and everywhere. Let's take a deep breath in. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Om. Bow the head to the heart and trust that peace and wellness will conquer all. Take the gaze up. Thank you and namaste.